Let's say, hypothetically, I've spent 12 years listening to my music on Spotify. I've spent over $1,700. Here's the amount of music I own after 12 years. Zero. Bummer. I think it's time to go back to the old ways of owning stuff rather than renting it out. So today I'm going to rip my CD collection, rip my vinyl records, which is going to be a bit more tricky, but more on that later. I'm going to compare the costs of owning a collection versus music subscriptions, and talk about dedicated digital audio players, specifically this cute wee thing that resembles an old Walkman cassette player. I could also just stick all of my music on my phone, but where's the fun in that? Picking up a USB CD drive costs about $15. However, I have splashed out on this BluRay drive to replace Netflix down the line. I printed this case to cover the nasties and got an adapter to plug it in via USB. It's been years since I ripped a CD, and last time I did it was on iTunes. So after having a look online, I used 3 different pieces of software, but later switched to MusicBee, as it did everything I needed in one package. I'm ripping the CDs in the format FLAC. FLAC has the same quality as a CD, but at a smaller size. Whereas with MP3, you're not only reducing the size, but the quality too. Here's the point of the video where I was going to claim a victory on quality over Spotify, however they have just recently announced lossless audio. This process renewed my appreciation of CDs. I often give vinyl records a higher status, but CDs have a lot to offer. It's still kind of the best way to buy music. It's physical, it can be digitized easily, it has nice art inlays and lyrics, and it can be bought dirt cheap secondhand. Now let's go over the cost of ownership versus Spotify. Using the 12-year number from earlier, at $12 a month, Spotify costs just over $1,700. So for the same amount of money, I could have built up quite a collection. At $2 to $4 a CD on the second-hand market, I can build a collection of 432 to 864 albums in that time, buying about 3 to 6 albums a month. At brand new, let's say $9 a CD, that's 192 albums or 1.3 albums a month. Vinyls can cost significantly more, but I quite like oldie music, so I can pick up 4 records like this for $12. In reality, it's going to be a mix of all these different price points, but at the end of 12 years, I've got a collection that tells a story of my musical journey and tastes. And after 7 hours, I've ripped the last CD of batch 1. With the CDs done, now let's get these vinyls ripped. Some new records have handy wee cards and stickers in them that gives you the ability to digitally download the tracks. This record by the late and great Martin Bennett, for example, has an option to download the tracks in loads of formats, which is very consumer friendly. However, this record from Air does have a code, but it doesn't work anymore. Now my view is, if you already own something, you can acquire it any way you see fit. As you can see, I now magically have Air Moon Safari on my PC, as .flax. This record was actually a bad example, as I totally forgot I actually have it on CD too, but you get the idea. If I could find my records in FLAC format online, I grabbed them. I was delighted to have found the Swing Era online, as I really didn't fancy ripping the 42 records individually. For those rarer albums I couldn't find, I'm plugging my record player into an RCA to USB device and ripping them on my computer. I'm using Vinyl Studio Pro to rip the records, mainly because it has a handy tool that approximates the location of the tracks using metadata, so you can export the songs as individual files. Then I corrected the placement of the track markers a little bit, just to sync them up, and exported them individually as FLAC files. You get 5 free rips with the trial, however I did get 9 for some reason. Then it's $30 for a license. Now, I could just click and drag all this music onto an SD card and pop it into my player, but I want to be able to plug my player into the computer and for it to sync automatically, like iTunes. MusicBee ticks a lot of boxes for what I was after. I like the UI, it has CD ripping, it has metadata editing, I can control how music is put on my player in a structured way of my choosing. It has audiobook support, and I can also have podcasts automatically download. And then when I plug in my player, those podcasts, along with everything else new, will automatically sync with my player. For my digital audio player, I chose the SnowSky Echo Mini by FiiO. I had a few reasons for choosing this wee thing over the conventional iPod route. Firstly, at $50, it's significantly cheaper than buying and modding a 5th gen iPod. Secondly, the size. This thing is tiny in comparison. It's pretty light and it just takes up less room in the pocket. The final reason is just because it's something different. It's cute and it's new, yet nostalgic. I miss the 2000s when you could choose devices that suited you and who you were and had some personality, before the market pushed us all towards identical glass-covered slabs. The feature list is pretty good. It's got Bluetooth, it's got 3.5mm and a 4.4mm audio jack, it's got 2 built-in DACs, it's got custom EQs, it supports lossless audio formats. Plus, if you really want to go all Star-Lord, you can buy the case, print out a 3D clip, and get the accompanying era-appropriate headphones by FiiO. It's not the most serious thing in the world, and not everyone's going to like it, or really get the point, but hey, it's fun and I like it, and that's really all that matters. I can see why more and more people are moving away from phones for listening to their music. It's about purpose. It's about escaping notifications, escaping algorithms, escaping every app's desire to be the next TikTok, escaping being recommended AI music, escaping Spotify pushing sponsored tracks in your feed. I'm sick of paying for a service and still ending up being the f***ing product. And it's just exhausting. But taking back control of your music collection is an incredibly rewarding and satisfying thing to do, and I highly recommend it. And I think you end up appreciating and connecting to the music more. This little thing doesn't have an ulterior motive. It just wants to play music for me. And I like that.